Please welcome Segun Eubanks, Professor of Practice and Director of the Center for Educational Innovation and Improvement.
I love Prince George's County, Maryland. Now, sometimes I don't know why, because the educational, political, and social dynamics can be maddening. But I love the place because of its promise. Now, for those of you who don't know, and most of you do, Prince George's, and don't say PG, is where we are right now. It is the ancestral home of the Piscataway people, among other indigenous communities. For much of American history, it was a rural place of farms and slave plantations, with more enslaved Africans than any other county in the state. Today, it might just seem like another typical DC suburb, but Prince George's is anything but typical for lots of reasons, and one in particular is the promise and the challenge of its K-12 public education system. Promise, because it's the second largest system in the state, with many high-achieving students and successful schools. Challenge, because it's consistently been labeled as the second lowest performing district in the state. Challenge, because it has an incredibly diverse and talented educator workforce. Challenge, because it has an incredibly difficult educator recruitment and retention issue. Promise, because it's a predominantly African American and Latinx population, known as one of the most affluent Black communities in the nation. Challenge, because many of these same affluent families have little faith in the public schools and won't send their children there. Promise, because it may just be the ideal place to prove that with the right resources and the right partnerships, we can improve public education for all students. Now, this promise is deeply meaningful to me, both personally and professionally. You see, I live here. My wife and I raised our youngest children here. We sent them to the public schools, which served them very well. I had the honor of serving on the county's Board of Education for several years, and now I am proud to be at the University of Maryland, located right here in Prince George's County. Now, these experiences have convinced me that through deep and meaningful partnership, we can improve educational experiences of our most marginalized students. The district faces many educational challenges similar to those of large urban school districts. By most any measure, it's considered a high-needs district. Yet, unlike its urban counterparts, it is a relatively affluent suburb with significant economic and social resources. And perhaps among its most valuable resources is the University of Maryland. While the county has other great colleges, the University of Maryland, as a flagship research-one public land-grant institution with a highly accomplished college of education, is uniquely positioned to focus its scholarship and service on improving the outcomes for students right here in our own home. Now, this idea of working together to solve tough problems of practice and address issues of equity is supported by a growing scholarship on the value and the impact of school-university partnerships, or research-to-practice partnerships, as they are often referred to. To that end, the new and ambitious University of Maryland strategic plan calls for developing and sustaining partnerships that allow our research and our service to have impact both locally and globally. But how do you create real partnerships at the local level that work? I can tell you this, these types of partnerships ain't easy. The landscape is littered with sincere but insufficient attempts for institutions of higher education to have an impact on schools and communities, particularly high-needs ones in their immediate surroundings. Now, today I want to tell you just a little bit about a partnership journey we're on between the University of Maryland and Prince George's County Public Schools that might just change this narrative. 5 years ago, we embarked on this journey to create a deep and meaningful partnership to address our toughest challenges of equity and student learning. Our story is highlighted in a case study chapter in a newly released book called Improving America's Schools Together. Using the tenets of improvement science, we've created networked improvement communities, which is a form of scientific learning community that brings together teachers, school leaders, and faculty members. And we're working to improve math outcomes for students and to address COVID learning loss by focusing on social and emotional learning needs. And while we are doing quality research that is vital to this work, this is more than a research project. It is a long-term improvement partnership designed to both gather the evidence and do the work that it takes to make a difference. Now, this journey is really just beginning, but we are seeing signs of progress. Our district partners tell us about improvements in their school improvement planning process, moving from random strategies to random activities to targeted strategies, from a sole focus on end-of-year testing outcomes to measuring real-time change in adult and student practice, from a focus on compliance and accountability to more focus on growing and learning. At the university level, we're seeing a significantly deeper commitment to this type of work, as evidenced by a multi-million-dollar university-funded grants initiative and important changes in our tenure and promotion policies that encourage and reward faculty to take on this partnership work. Now, in closing, real change that leads to sustained impact and improvement in student learning takes time. Whether we have the commitment to take that time remains to be seen. But I'd like to leave you with 3 valuable lessons that we've learned through this process that I hope will set the foundation for building stronger and more meaningful partnerships between schools and universities. First, building trusting individual relationships is essential to starting strong partnerships. But if that relational trust doesn't mature to institutional trust, then partnerships are unlikely to be sustained. Parties must realize that this work is core to our mission and can't rely solely on individual leaders or outside funding sources. Next, we must develop the right work cadence. Our district partners are rightfully in a hurry to see change happen and constantly under pressure to measure progress. Our university partners are rightfully deliberate and understand that building an evidence base takes time. But to make partnership work, we must slow our schools down to study and contemplate. And we must speed our universities up to put evidence to work right now. And finally, we must all believe. We must believe in the promise of public education. We must believe in our collective ability to make a difference, even within a dramatically imperfect and unequal system of public education. We must believe in the families and communities we serve. We must believe that every student, regardless of race, ethnicity, language, religion, income, zip code, gender identity, sexual orientation, physical ability, special need, or any other identifier that we've used to discriminate, can and must be fairly and adequately educated. Thank you.